Good morning, Zimbabwe. Welcome to our virtual camp meeting. I want to start off first by thanking in a special way the people who have put this thing together. And I want to thank God for the innovation, thank God for the technology, and for all the things that we are managing to put together to make sure that even though we cannot be together face to face, we are still able to worship, we are still able to be renewed spiritually by coming to camp meetings. I pray that you have been enriched by this morning devotion. And now, let me just take a moment to introduce myself. I am Dr. Sikwa. I'm a medical doctor, and I'm the Health Ministries Director for the SID. Now, if we can look at the screen there, that's my department. I represent Adventist Health Ministries. And you can see from our logo as displayed there, it's still reminding us with that right hand and those three flames. It reminds us that Adventist health is still the right hand of the gospel. So it is no wonder that health is the very first lecture that you are having in this virtual camp meeting. Let me commend the leaders for coming up with a wonderful theme for this camp. Sorry about that. Technology can become difficult sometimes. Our theme, a Christ-centered culture, our culture. I was challenged when I received that theme that we have to talk to. Then I thought, where can we start in health? And I realized that one of the reasons why we are talking to you in your homes, in your churches, in different places and not together is because we are in a very special time, especially a time of the coronavirus, a time of COVID-19. So it became necessary to pick a topic that is in line with what we are going through. And I've come up with the topic, Christ and coronavirus. So, when I think about that, I said to myself, the COVID-19 is an elephant in the room. In case you are not familiar with that English expression, an elephant in the room, it means something that is so big, it takes all the space around. You cannot ignore it. It's not part of the room, it's not part of the furniture, it's not part of what you are discussing. But it has such an imposing presence that you can't help but deal with it. And from where I'm standing, COVID-19 is the elephant in the room. We cannot go through with our camp meeting, we cannot go through with our health lectures without addressing this elephant that is in the room, COVID-19. Some of us, we have only heard about it from the radios and have never had the privilege of that being explained. So I'm going to take just a few minutes, because I'm from the health, to talk a little bit about this coronavirus, this COVID-19. What is it? Is COVID-19 the same thing as the coronavirus? No. Coronavirus is the bug, the germ that gives us the disease, the COVID-19. Coronavirus is so called because of its shape. I've tried to put up a picture there. I just Google searched that and found that on the internet. When you Google search, you can find for yourself. It's somebody who has made an illustration to show you how on the microscope the coronavirus looks. It's called corona because of all those little things on its head that looks like crowns. So that is why it is called that way. Commonly, it does not actually affect human beings. The coronavirus, historically, they affect animals like rats, like chickens and pigs and the like. But then, since they have jumped on into the human race, they have come to be causing mostly respiratory illness. Respiratory are illnesses that have to do with our breathing apparatus, you know, the nose, the mouth, and the things that we use for breathing. And in the recent past, some of you may have heard about something that was called SARS. Actually, the name and everything comes from the disease that is the severe acute respiratory syndrome. Here in Southern Africa, even in Zimbabwe, we are used to AIDS. Some of us may not even remember what AIDS stands for, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And when you say syndrome, it means it's a collection of diseases Somebody may start off with a headache, somebody else may start with a tummy, somebody may start with a flu-like. All of those things, when they are collected together, are called a syndrome. And then the disease that it causes is called COVID-19. COVID-19 sounds like a strange name, but it's actually a compound word, which means a word that was made by putting together a number of words. Coronavirus disease that was discovered in 2019. You may have heard the word is a novel virus, which means it's a kind of virus that we have not seen before. So it is the coronavirus disease of 2019, hence the name COVID-19. And it is caused by the coronavirus that causes the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, coronavirus. And this is number 2, because number 1 we have had a few years ago. About 5, 6, 7 years ago we had SARS disease. So the virus itself is called SARS-CoV-2, and it causes the disease COVID-19. This has been found to be a highly infectious disease. In the last 9 months that we have identified it, from December last year until now in August as we are talking, it has worldwide infected just under 19 million people around the world. You can imagine such a short time for this virus to have gone all over the world. As we speak, there is no known treatment for it. People keep asking, what is the excitement? I mean, we have had HIV/AIDS. So many people that we know have died from it. We have got TB. We've got so many diseases around. Shops have never closed. Churches have never closed. We have never had these lockdowns and everything. What is so big about this COVID-19? Well, it is the way it infects so fast. Of course, we have lived through the influenza virus. It looks something like things that are in the same family. Viruses, they tend to move quickly through the population. During the great influenza virus of 1919, shops were closed, streets were closed, schools were closed. Again, here we are, because the best way to stop these viruses from spreading is for people to be isolated from each other. Anyway, in the last 9 months, it has already infected that many people. But the good news, if there can be good news in these bad times, is that 80% of the people that are infected, actually they recover. They may recover and still have a little bit of a headache and a little bit of a problem here, but by and large, they recover, most without even going to the hospital. Some can get infected and not even know that they're infected and not show any symptoms. But the trouble is, it actually kills. So far, we have just around 700,000 people worldwide who have already died in the last 9 months. So you can see that there is reason for us to try to stop it from coming in. And because also it is a new virus, we actually don't know enough. So every day you hear a lot of information about the coronavirus. What's that got to do with Christ? Or what's Christ got to do with it? Remember, I said the topic is Christ and the coronavirus. I would like to say to you, everything actually. Not everything in the sense that he caused it, or all the other stories that you may have heard, but everything, because anything that affects the human being and is even killing them, Christ is interested in that. So I want to reassure you today that Christ is actually very interested that we are struggling through the COVID-19. He's interested in the coronavirus. He's interested in all that is happening. But I'm going to show you that he was actually interested even before the coronavirus came. Just keep watching. So, as we say that the COVID-19 is a novel virus, the thing is, the coronaviruses that infect human beings have been around for quite a bit. When you look into the literature, it will show you that around the 1960s, that's when they were first isolated. In the 1930s, we have hitherto been having them isolated but in animals, but they jumped from animals into the human race somewhere around the 1960s. And so they have been existing for quite some time in the medical world. Viruses, by and large, have been around, and I'm saying that because I want us to appreciate that Jesus Christ is not taken by surprise by these viruses. When the human being discovers, it doesn't mean they have created. It means we have become aware of it, or now we are able to see those things. We know from literature that ever since 1892, that was the first time that the human beings were able to isolate and say, yes, these are the viruses that are causing diseases. Diseases were there. People were dying from them. They just did not know the name and the shape and the picture of the thing that was causing them, which means God always knew at that time. Right now we know the thing called yellow fever. That was the first virus in 1901 that was actually isolated. But if you look in literature, you find out that people were dying from yellow fever long before science and human beings have known that. So, in the recent past, we find out that viruses, they seem to be multiplying. But actually, when you look at research, you realize that what is happening is technology is catching up. The human technology is developing so much that now we are able to identify, to see, to isolate so many more viruses. So the technology is one that's catching up. God has been there for a long time. He has always been there. The viruses have always been there. He knows that they are there. And He's been protecting us, and He's been giving us ideas on what has got to be done. And that's what we are going to talk about a little bit more. Let's talk just a few more minutes about viruses. As I've already said, viruses have existed for a very long time. What is of concern, including the COVID-19 we are talking about, is that viruses now, they seem to be jumping from one species to another. Science is finding itself highly challenged by what we call the emergence of new viruses. So the big question is, what is driving this emergence of new viruses? I know that from the Christian community, there are those who have posted in social media interesting things like these things are satanic, these things are being brought about by there are so many theories that I dare not go into because I actually don't understand the theories they're bringing. But I would like to come up with it perhaps from the scientific perspective, because in science, at least we try to look at the evidence, we try to look at things that are reproducible that others can also come and look at. So the people that are called virologists, people who study viruses, they will tell us that there are so many things that are seen to be contributing to this emergence of new viruses or the jumping of new viruses from one species to another. These factors can include environmental factors, the destruction that we are doing to our environment, biological factors, things of lifestyle, what we are eating. Some of the animals we may not have eaten before. Some of the things, people have manipulated animals such that they are no longer the kind that we knew. And in eating those, the viruses also are able to change, and we call it mutation. And when they change, then they are able to survive longer, they are able to survive other conditions, including conditions of the human race. That's what science is telling us. As Christians, of course, we know that these are part of the science of time, because Jesus told us that closer to the end of time, there will be pestilences, there will be diseases. He did not take the time to explain to us that, by the way, you are going to destroy the world this way and the viruses are going to become so many. He could have, because he already knew. But we know the simpler side of it. By faith, we know that. So, is Christ surprised by this? Of course not. He cannot be. He already knew. That is why he told us long before time. So, I want to put it to us that Christ is not only interested in the history of coronavirus, as some of us are now interested in trying to find out where did it start. Oh yeah, they say it started in China, and then it spread, and then everybody started, but is the coronavirus, is it only now we are finding it? Which animal did it come from? We are spending a lot of time on that. The truth of the matter is, Christ is interested in much, much more than that. He is interested in the effect of viruses on human beings. And I can just pause a little bit to talk about some of the effects of the COVID-19 for our information. We will be aware at this point in time that many people, the symptoms that we keep talking about is coughing, is flu-like symptoms, is temperature, and that is because the virus affects what we call the respiratory system. The respiratory system. The respiratory system includes the nose and the lungs and the other very, very small organs that are included inside that help us in the breathing. When you get that virus, one of the symptoms is difficulty in breathing. This virus, remember I said it's a syndrome, it affects also the digestive system. The digestive system includes what? Your mouth, all the parts of the food path to the stomach, to the intestines. That is why you find that some people, some of the symptoms that they find is loss of taste. They tell you, I've lost my taste. They can't taste food for a while. Others, they have vomiting. Others, they have diarrhea because this virus is actually affecting the digestive system. Then, it also affects the circulatory system. The circulatory system is the system that has got to do with the heart and the blood vessels and those things. We have heard of many people who are dying and saying, some are even saying, no, maybe this is not a virus. Why? Because there are so many people who have died. When you do the post-mortem, you find out that they had blood clots. They are dying because of failure of their blood clots and their systems. Yes, that's what science is finding. As I said, we are learning more and more every day about this virus. And there are other systems that are affected to a lesser extent, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Why am I bringing us into systems? I want to bring this in to show us that Christ already knew about the COVID-19 and other viruses. He says in John 16, verse 33, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. I hope somebody's saying amen to that, because Christ has overcome the world. So, is there anything in place to help us overcome? Is there anything in place that Christ has put in when he says, I have overcome the world? Take heart, be at peace. Could it be in the Bible or in the spirit of prophecy? Something that has already been put there to help us in situations that we are going to meet viruses and we are going to meet other infections. I want to put it to you that there is. And as the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we have always known that. And we have packaged it in the word celebrations. And many of you have been trained in celebrations. And I can bet there's somebody out there who has never thought about celebrations and the methods that we have been told in celebrations as helping you to fight the COVID-19, or as some things that God has put in place beforehand for us, that when these viruses and all these things come, we can actually overcome. I want us to think very briefly about that verse. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. John 13, verse 17. Why? Because I know that many of you who are listening to this have had celebrations before. Okay, if you haven't heard about it, you have heard about the various elements in things like New Start programs, creation programs. There are many different programs out there, but the bulk of them, they actually come from the spirit of prophecy. Come with me on a very short trip, and I want to show you how celebrations has actually been put in place even for a situation like the COVID-19. The first letter, C, talks to choices. And I want us to look at the choices that we have in terms of infection prevention. I've got pictures here. That is a cloth mask, and that is a surgical mask. What do we know right now from science? Everywhere around the world, we are all being told, protect yourself. Put on a mask. Go out there to make sure that you don't actually get infected or you don't infect yourself. Guess what? It is your choice to follow the given guidelines. As a church, we have always tried to teach that you have a choice. To be healthy or not to be healthy is your choice. To protect yourself or not to protect yourself is your choice. In some places in the world, wearing a mask or not wearing a mask has become a political statement. Other places, it has become a financial statement. There are different connotations that people are making about wearing masks or not wearing them. But ultimately, I want to say to you, the choice is actually yours. The viruses are actually out there. Whether you get the virus or you don't get the virus may actually depend on you choosing to follow the guidelines, the various guidelines, including social distancing. When you are in a shop and you are lining up to go to pay, or you are coming and you are getting onto the bus and they're telling you social distance, they're telling you take the temperature, they're telling you put on a mask. You can sit there and argue with them, but ultimately remember, the choice is actually yours. And as the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and to all of you who are listening, would like to encourage you that your health is in your hands. The choice is yours. You can minimize the risk. It may not eliminate it completely, but you can minimize it. We have the letter E in celebration. It stands for exercise. If you are an Adventist and you remember the verse I said, blessed you are if you keep these things. A proper practicing Adventist, remember we have said that we want to look at our culture. If you take these things that have been put for our use into your culture, you will begin to exercise. If you are somebody who exercises like 30 minutes every day, for one thing, you will have a strong immune system. A strong immune system is what is going to take you through this COVID-19. Remember we said there is no treatment yet. There is no vaccine. Those who survive, how long, how short, how much they suffer has more to do with how strong their immune system is. And one of the things that the church, we have always been hammering on and trying to bring you, our members, on board, is the issue of exercise. When you exercise, among other things, you would know just to walk or to jog or to work in the garden, any one of those things when you do, you know that you begin to breathe faster, breathe deeper. Your muscles of the lungs, your lungs are actually getting strengthened. And remember what we said? COVID-19, which system does it affect? Yes, the respiratory system. So I'm telling you, Christ already had something in place for us. If you and I had made the right choices before to actually implement the exercise, we may just have strong enough lungs that may just be able to carry us through. There are many, many things that happen to your body when you exercise. And those things, without getting into those details, can actually help you to go through much, much quicker and much better. In the COVID-19, not just that, even the flu, the day-to-day flu that we get. L in celebration stands for liquids. I know that somebody already knew that. But did you know that the liquids are exactly what the doctors and other people are saying now? Because liquids here, they are talking about water, for example, frequent hand washing. If you listen to any of the health professionals and even governments around the world, they are all teaching us to wash hands as if we have not always known that. I'm sure most of us have at least known that you should wash hands before eating. But now we are being told we have to wash hands frequently with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Did you know that in the spirit of prophecy, and that information has always been there? They may not have put in the seconds, but it has always been there that you should wash. It is there, even in our celebrations, which you have known for so long before the COVID came. Now we want to re-emphasize that. Liquids. Wash your hands. Wash also your whole body to complete the whole hygiene. Having washed, there is something else. Drink water. When you have fever, when you're having COVID and you have fever, one of the things that happens when your body heats up is you sweat a lot. And the more you sweat, the less your body is able to cope because it's losing water. So we want to encourage you that in the event that you get a COVID virus, please keep up your fluids. But even before you get it, make sure that you drink up to 2 liters a day. When you drink that, just drinking, by the way, you may know that your body is more than 65% water. Your brain is more than 85% water. As you drink more of that, more water, it makes your blood, which is also mostly water, move much better, cleanse your body much better. And as you breathe out, you may, if you breathe in your hand, you may find out that there's moisture in your hand. There is also moisture. That's why the virus can be spread by the breathing from one person to another, because it's carried out in saliva. Now, if you drink a lot of water, you could actually get rid of the virus much, much faster. So, liquids, water. We would like also to help us remember that when we are talking about liquids, we are mostly focusing on the water. Of course, there are other liquids we can talk about, But in this COVID-19, we wish to encourage you that if you are the kind of person who has been drinking juices and fizzy drinks and other things, please make a determined effort to replace those with pure, simple water. Why? Among other things, other than the fact that your body needs water, the sweetened things, they bring sugar in your body. Lots of sugar lowers your immune system. Sugar actually fights the immune cells, the cells that you need right now to be fighting your COVID-19. So as I said, Christ has already put something in place for us with the COVID-19. E stands for environment. Remember what the scientists are saying? The scientists are struggling to say, why are all these viruses now coming up and becoming so common? And they are saying it's because we are filled with the environment. And I want to put it to us to say, even on our little space, each one of us where they are, if you have the COVID-19 or if you want to avoid it or other viruses, let's start by keeping our environment clean. We are hearing now about cleaning with disinfectants and the like. If you don't have disinfectants, start by just cleaning your house, clean the surfaces with just soap and water, wipe out the surfaces so that even if you had a visitor or somebody came in or somebody has been from the shops and for whatever reason touched things that had the viruses and brought them in the house, your frequent cleaning will keep your family safe. If somebody is sick, it is important that the place where they are is actually kept clean. We need to stay in rooms that are well ventilated. Well ventilated means that the windows are open or the doors are open. I know that it is cold and the tendency is for us to close inside. But when we have our place wide open, it helps that if any one of us has got a virus, it can move much faster and pass by. And you will not be able, well, you may actually not get sick from it. Avoid habits that pollute the air. Habits that pollute the air, I'm talking to you who may actually be smoking. Smoking is not good for your lungs. And smoking pollutes the environment and makes it difficult for even the people around you to be able to survive this virus, even if they could have. Avoid polluting other places like polluting water. Here in Zimbabwe, we struggle with cholera. Every now and then we get the cholera epidemics. But we do know that part of the trouble with cholera is the contamination of the water. Celebrations, we are saying that let's look after our environment. Let's make sure that we don't pollute our environment. If we contaminate our water, we contaminate our air, we are going to end up with many, many diseases that are there. They can make our COVID-19 situation much worse. We know that people who end up dying are people who have got other conditions other than COVID-19, like asthma. So, if we look after our environment, if we make sure that we do not trigger the asthma attacks and other things, we will be able to survive. Within our environment, we've also got something wonderful called sunshine. It seems fashionable nowadays for people to stay indoors the whole day. I suppose you are indoors now that you are watching this program here. But I want to encourage you that at the end of these programs, please stand up and stretch your legs and go and walk outside and make sure that you get a dose of sunshine. Why? Sunshine gives you vitamin D. Vitamin D is especially important now in COVID-19 because vitamin D is one of those vitamins that are very important, not only in bone formation, as many of us know, but actually in the formation of your immune cells. We need the vitamin D to form up the cells that help us fight the viruses, because it's important in the creation of some special cells that are in the immune system that fight infection. So vitamin D, actually the sun, helps you to fight this coronavirus. Of course, don't stay extending it for too long. You will get other problems with that. Just 15 to 20 minutes of sunshine every day should be enough for you. But then, other than that, the sun is also important even for our brain and for our pancreas, for example. And what is the importance of pancreas? Pancreas is one of those deep organs that we don't talk about much, but that is where this little thing called insulin comes from, which many of us would have heard about diabetes on. Why is this important in COVID-19? If you look at the people who are dying from COVID-19, most of them are people who also have got diabetes. So now, I'm saying to you that Christ had already put that in his plan. We were always in his plan. He's the one who created the sun, and he's the one who gave the spirit of prophecy for us to actually have the inspiration to work with the sun and to know how to use the sun. And where do I get all these things? If you look at the spirit of prophecy in the book Ministry of Healing, page 127, which was published way back in 1905, before they even discovered the coronavirus. That's why I'm saying to you that these viruses were there before, and God knew. In the spirit of prophecy, it says, pure air, sunlight, abstemiousness, rest, exercise, proper diet, the use of water, trust in divine power. These are true remedies. The spirit of prophecy told us there are true remedies all the way back there. And I want to give them to you today as you are struggling with the COVID-19 to say, these are the true remedies. And I don't even need to hammer so hard on them because governments are hammering hard on them. It is your governments that are telling you now, wash your hands. It is the health professionals now that are telling you, drink a lot of water, rest, do all those things. The spirit of prophecy, way back in 1905, before there was the virus, or before we knew we had isolated it and we could say this is the virus, God already given us that. Number the B in celebration is what? Belief. I want us to talk a little bit about this. Now, where do you get your information on COVID-19? For some of you, you have heard a lot of what I'm saying today. Some of you are even teaching it because perhaps you are a health professional, perhaps you are somebody who has been trained to go out there and do the testing. But somebody else, the only information that you have is what you find on social media. The trouble with that is we have got too much information in there, and some of it, unfortunately, is misinformation. So, our belief, as Celebration says, is very, very important. Whom do you believe? What do you believe in? Some of us are even very scared right now. They are saying the pandemic now is shaking our faith and is showing us that we are on the wrong path, and others are saying this is a lost church. There are so many things that are coming up. And I want to say to you, from the celebrations we are saying, trust in God. Your faith in God needs to get strengthened now. You need to go back to your roots. You need to find out what it is that you believe in and whom do you believe in. Of course, ultimately, the reality is some people are going to get sick. Unfortunately, some are going to die. Somebody listening right now has probably already lost a relative to COVID-19. That is why it is important that our belief in God should be firm. We need to believe in the God who is the resurrection. And that is something that is the beauty of working with Christ. Because the beauty of working with Christ is that he says, I am the resurrection and the life. When we are talking about all these other things of prevention and the like, we are talking about the life. But he anticipates and knows that this life that we live will get shortened. And he says, in the event that you die, which is almost a certainty, unless he comes sooner before any of us are dead, I am the resurrection. So that's why I'm saying Christ has everything to do with that. But before we go on this, I just want to share with us a few myths that are running out around there in the social media on the COVID-19, which I want to bring to us as a precaution to say, let us be careful on some of the things that we are hearing. Myths about COVID-19. All these I've taken from the WHO, the World Health Organization website. You are welcome to go there and read a lot more about that. I've taken this and made summaries out of that. There are claims out there in the world, especially in Africa, and these are coming from the African region. One of them says, drinking bleach will kill the COVID-19 in your body. I want to say to you that that is false. Scientifically, it is false. In fact, your bleaches, the things that you are using to clean up your methanols and the like, they are actually poisonous. If you drink them, they may actually kill you. Remember I said that much as COVID-19 is a bad news, most people will recover. You might actually be in the 80% that are going to suffer a little while, but then recover. But if you go on and drink all these other things, you may actually kill yourself with them. These are cleaning products. They will kill whatever they find on the surface, but they will not kill it in you. When you drink them, they will most probably harm your body in some ways. Here is another claim. Adding hot pepper to your food will help prevent or cure COVID-19. That is false. Chili pepper is a nice spice. We can use it in there. In fact, it does have a lot of vitamin C. But for you to get to the level of vitamin C, then you've got, of course, to eat a lot of it. But vitamin C has not been proven to be treatment for COVID-19. Vitamin C does help in strengthening your body, your immune system, so that you can have a much stronger immune system. It has not been proven to cure COVID-19. Here is another myth. Drinking alcohol will protect you against COVID-19. In fact, this one I get almost on a daily basis. In WhatsApp and what have you, people, they send to ask and say, isn't it true that we have to wash our hands with a sanitizer? And yes, if you don't wash your hands with soap and water, it's recommended that you wash your hands with hand sanitizer, and hand sanitizer should have at least 70% alcohol. So somebody has come and say, wait a minute, if I drink alcohol, then I'll be much better. Firstly, let me say to you that this is false. In the first place, the alcohol that is in the beer and the wines, some of the beer is like 5% and 6%. Some of the very, very strong wines, they can go up to 20-30%. The highest content of alcohol in a spirit, we call them spirits, these dry wines, is about 60%. But they are very, very expensive. If you are going to buy that to drink on this, you might as well buy a sanitizer to wash your hands with, because sanitizer actually comes out cheaper than that alcohol. But at the end of the day, the first point being that even if you were to wash your surface with beer or wine, it will still not kill the virus there, much less inside your body. The exercise of consumption of alcohol itself is actually dangerous. It increases your health problems. If you were to drink just 1 spoon of pure alcohol, you will be dead in no time at all. Alcohol is very, very dangerous. Do not try to drink alcohol to try to kill COVID virus inside your body. Here is another myth. Eating garlic will help prevent COVID-19 infections. I've seen this one floating actually in a lot of Adventist sites and the like. False. Scientists know that it is false. Garlic, it has been shown in some small studies that it may have some antimicrobial properties. There are some that even say it is a bit of a weak antibiotic. It can help with cleaning on a number of places and the like. But there is no evidence currently to say eating garlic will protect people. People have been eating the garlic and some of them are even dead. And by the way, garlic is a blood thinning substance. You eat too much of the garlic, you may end up bleeding. So be careful about taking too many things trying to kill a virus when they have not been proven to be the ones that can kill the virus. Here is another myth, and I hear about this one a lot also. Rinsing your nose with salt water can prevent the infection with COVID-19. I'm sorry to say to you that that also is false. There is no evidence that regularly rinsing your nose with salt water has protected people from the COVID virus. What is known is that salt and salt water, it does thin up the mucus. So yes, when somebody has got the flu or has got a blocked nose, if they rinse out their nose with salt water, it thins up the mucus and it does make it easier for you to breathe. But it is not killing the virus. It may make you feel a little bit more comfortable just by virtue of removing the mucus, at least the one that's in your nose. But salt water in your lungs is not a good idea. So if you are going to try to do that salt water and push it also in the lungs, in the thought of loosening the mucus in the lungs, you will probably not survive the exercise because lungs are not supposed to have water inside. Another myth, and I've seen this one also, people are buying all sorts of antibiotics. They are emptying the shops for the antibiotics, penicillins and those type of antibiotics. They say they can prevent COVID-19 infection with it. That is false. Simply from a scientific perspective, the name says antibiotics. Antibiotics are stuff that are supposed to treat bacteria. COVID-19, as I've said from the beginning, is a disease that is caused by the coronavirus. It's a virus. Antibiotics have absolutely no effect on viruses. But if you are going to be taking antibiotics, you are going to risk endangering your own body. Your body has got a lot of bacteria, the good bacteria, that is there to help you with things like digesting your food and other things. If you take the antibiotics when you don't need them, you may end up with diarrhea, you may end up with rashes, you may end up with some other adverse reaction. But one thing that you will not end up with is a dead virus, because the antibiotics do not help you with the viruses. So let's not do some of those things. Here is another one. And this is mostly from the East and West Africa. I haven't had much of it this side, maybe because we don't have the palm oil. It's trending somewhere in the media. It says palm oil can prevent infection with COVID-19. Sorry, that's false. There has been no evidence. There is no scientific proof. Even the people who are using palm oil, some of them have actually died. So it is not a proven remedy for COVID-19. This one, we hear a lot, even from Zimbabwe. I've had this one. Steam inhalation is an effective treatment against COVID-19. It's actually a false assertion, but it goes back to what I said before about salt water. What's steaming, and many of us come from a culture where when your child is very hot or a child has got runny nose and the like, you would boil some water, put in and cover them up for steaming. Medically, we don't encourage that because we have seen many people having many bad side effects. One of them is that they burn themselves with that water, the boiling water. Many people have tipped that water. Another one is that if somebody is really clogged up there, when you are covered up and there's no oxygen coming in, they've collapsed. People have died from steaming like that. I've seen other people who do it without actually covering up and just letting the steam come to their faces. And they do get relief. You will get relief the same way I talked about the salt water. You will get some relief because the steam itself, the warm steam, does moisten up, soften up the mucus. And as the mucus gets softened, you can cough it out better. But it is not killing the virus. Let's get a distinction here. It's not killing the virus, but it does provide a certain relief. But be careful of the danger. As it says here, no amount of heat is going to penetrate to kill the virus that is buried in your cells. Before the heat can penetrate those cells, it's going to kill cells, and killing the cells is going to be killing you. So this is not going to be working very well for you. Therefore, what is my whole point? Be careful what you choose to believe in terms of the prevention of the COVID-19. Is there anything else in place? Has Christ put anything else in place? Yes, back to celebrations, the R. R is for rest. Christ has already provided that. Remember the spirit of prophecy quotation that I just read for us? Rest. Guess what? Most of the viral infections, generally, they go away on their own. Even the flu. Old people, they know this. They'll tell you, oh, go and sleep it out. It is actually true. You can sleep out. You sleep and then they go away. And why is that? Scientifically, we also know that. When you sleep, and by the way, when you say rest and sleep, we mean turn off your social media, young people, turn off the computers, turn off the laptops and all the other things that you are doing, turn off the TV. Because the idea is to allow the body to concentrate all the energy into rejuvenating itself. Your body is, as the psalmist says, fearfully and wonderfully made. It has got the ability to rejuvenate itself. But a number of that comes out in sleep. When you sleep for a long time and you are sick, the body allows itself to regenerate. So rest is not just because you are whiling away time. It's actually you are taking your dose of medicine. Sleep it out. When you sleep for that flu for a day or 2 days, you'll wake up much more refreshed, especially in this day and age where people are workaholics. So COVID-19, especially when you don't need to be hospitalized and all you are having is the aches and pains, plus now other organs that are affected and your muscles are hurting in the leg, drink your water, take some sunshine, get some fresh air and sleep. And you will survive on that. So says the spirit of prophecy, so says science. Air. Celebrations has got air. I don't think I need to belabor this one. We've already talked about how this is a problem with the respiration. So it goes without saying that one of the most critical elements that you have is air. God is so wonderful. He already put air there for us. Now the challenge is that the air that we breathe has got only about 23% of it that is oxygen. Now when your lungs are clogged up with mucus in COVID-19, that somehow is not enough. This is why we end up hearing so much about this thing called the respirator, the ICUs and the oxygens. What now people do is they tend to concentrate the oxygens that now when you are breathing, you breathe 100% oxygen. So that is actually the big deal with going to the hospital when you cannot breathe so much. So we want to encourage you that as much as is possible, if you are able to, when you are struggling or your child is struggling to breathe, don't waste too much time at home trying to try a few of this remedy and that remedy. In COVID-19, please take them to the nearest health facility. One thing that they have that most people don't have at home is oxygen, pure oxygen. They will put it on your face and that is medicine. So air on its own is medicine. T stands for temperance. Temperance, by definition, is avoidance of all things harmful and judicious use or responsible use of all that is good. And that's a quotation actually from Patriarchs and Prophets, page 562. Interesting, isn't it, that God already had these things in place. One of the things that we hear a lot about in many countries, including South Africa and Botswana, since I move a lot in those two, the first things that they did when the coronavirus came was what? Ban the tobacco sale, close up the bars and bottle stores, ban the alcohol sale. Strangely and interestingly enough, the spirit of prophecy has always talked about the dangers of alcohol, the dangers of tobacco. And of course it goes on to talk about something else. Recreational drugs and the coffees. They haven't closed the recreational drugs generally are not legal anyway, so nobody can admit to having them around. But the coffees and the like, they have not been closed down. But these things, they weaken your immune system. They actually kill your body. Tobacco, for example, it damages your blood cells. And do you remember in the COVID we talked about that? About the blood vessels? It damages your lungs. The easiest thing that anybody can see. Now the lungs that are already damaged from tobacco struggle to withstand COVID-19. So in the advent of that and most governments isolating it, we must be able to look at that and say, thank you, Jesus, because you foresaw COVID-19 coming and you have already given us that. If only we had been listening. Listen to what the Spirit of Prophecy says in the book Child Guidance, page 394. Temperance in all things is to be taught in practice. Remember the verse? If you know these things, blessed are you if you keep them. She says temperance in what? Eating. Temperance in drinking. Temperance in sleeping, in dressing is one of the grand principles of religious life. Nothing that concerns health of the human agent is to be regarded with indifference. Nothing that concerns your health and my health is taken for granted by God. That is why He has put all these things in place for us. Especially to you young people that are out there. Some of you who tell yourselves, no, the spirit of prophecy, nah, I want the Bible. Yeah, the Bible is here also. I believe in the spirit of prophecy. I also believe in the Bible. And the Bible is very clear. Proverbs 23, verse 31 to 32. Do not look at that. It doesn't even say taste. Do not look at wine when it is red, when it sparkles in the cup, when it goes down smoothly. At the end, it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. I wish I had more time just to expand on that topic of the sting of the serpent. You will be surprised to see how the alcohol truly stings like that. Someday, I'll get a chance to Zimbabwe. I'll come there and I'll sit and I'll discuss that with you. Look at what the spirit of prophecy says about that. Intoxication is just as readily produced by wine, beer, and cider as by stronger drinks. I really believe Mrs. White was a prophet. Because I've heard some young people say, no, I just drink beer. I won't get drunk from there. I like what she says about this. It is actually produced by that. But look at the last paragraph of that. Moderate drinking is the school in which men are educated for a drunkard career. Now to you young people who are listening, Do not be taking that wine at the parties, at the office conference, the one that your friends are giving you, the small beer that you are just supposed to take, because you are in school. And if you are graduating from there, you will probably struggle to survive the COVID-19. The people who are struggling to survive are the people who have got other conditions. It says here, tea and coffee and stimulating and additives. Okay, these are all the things that we are not supposed to be using. Because the tea and the coffee, they stimulate your heart so much. Remember I said COVID-19 acts on the circulatory system. Your heart that is already weakened by tea and coffee will probably struggle to survive on that. I like this one here. Cancels on diet, especially the second part of it. Second-hand smoke is poisonous to the non-smokers. You know, this thing was published way before even the governments and the scientists found out about second-hand smoking. But why I'm having it here is actually to help you be able to teach and talk to your neighbors who may be asking, why are our governments so harsh that they have decided to ban the sale of tobacco? I mean, I'm smoking my tobacco, I'm not a problem to you. Tell them the spirit of prophecy says so. Because it says here, second-hand smoking, and of course now science also says so. Many people who are dying from cancers are coming from second-hand smoking. Even in the COVID-19, if people are going to be smoking out there and they're making the rest of us smoke, we will all then struggle with this coronavirus. So the coronavirus is indeed something that can help us sit here and reflect on our health principles, on this gift that Lord Jesus gave to us. I stands for integrity. Integrity, I like to define it as the ability to be honorable and transparently honest in all situations. In the COVID-19 era, integrity is called for. I want to appeal to those of you who are stronger immune-wise. Because you hear the lectures like the one that I'm giving where people are telling you that, 70 to 80% of the people have already recovered and they will recover, some without any problems, without even feeling it. So you tell yourself, I'll just go, I won't put on my masks, I won't wash my hands, I won't do any of those prevention things. After all, if I get the disease, I'll survive it. That's not integrity. Integrity says that when you have the disease, and you have the virus and you don't even know it, and you go around sharing it with other people like that, you can bring in the virus home to your ailing mother, to your children, and they may not survive it like you. When you read the papers and you get on social media, you hear about young teenagers who are regretting having gone to those parties and enjoying themselves, as they call it, and then coming home to infect their parents, and then one of the parents, or sometimes both of them, dying. They did not have integrity. Integrity says, think about the other person. When you get vaccinated, it's not just about you. It is about the other person also. In COVID-19, we are called upon to show integrity. Let us protect the vulnerable in our community. Even though we know ourselves that we may be able to withstand and survive, let us try all that we can to protect our other neighbors. Whoever his discipline shows the way of life, but whoever ignores correction leads others astray. That's Proverbs 10 verse 17. Young people and those of you who are strong, I'm appealing to you. Please, young people, let's stop going for these night secret parties. Let's stop doing all the things that are going to endanger other people. The spirit of prophecy has talked to us. The Bible is talking to us. The adults, we are appealing to you. Yes, Jesus has put something in place. Yes, Jesus Christ is interested in us and interested in how we survive the COVID-19. So interested that he put these things long before this disease came along. O stands for optimism. Optimism is ability to be positive. Some say to see the glass as half full and not half empty. When you are a true practicing Christian, you will believe the words that all things work together for good for them that love the Lord. in this era of COVID-19, we are going to need much, much more optimism than we can imagine. COVID-19 is challenging us in so many ways. It's challenging us with mentally. There's a lot of fear. I too have got anxiety. As I walk around, if I need to go to the shops to buy food for my children, am I going to meet the virus there? Will I be bringing it into the house? It's only natural. I live with healthcare workers. I am a healthcare worker. I know of many friends who have died in the line of duty. We health professionals are seen as the frontline soldiers of this. So yes, we have got fear, and yes, we have got anxiety. And yes, we do need to believe that tomorrow will be a better day. We do need the optimism. There are also terrible social effects. With this extreme social distancing, shops are closed, businesses are going down, people are being retrenched, mental health is coming on, but more importantly, there is no food on the table. People are suffering literally, seriously. In Zimbabwe, you were already suffering with all the problems that we are all aware of Zimbabwe. Now COVID-19 has made it even worse. The only thing that we can appeal to you is to say, hold on to God by faith. Be optimistic. Those who are pessimistic, and pessimism is the opposite of optimism, believing that we are already dead. Now the virus has come to finish us off. And I've heard those sentiments too. In celebrations, we are saying, be optimistic. Hold on to God. Keep on believing. We know that sometimes you have to hope, even if does not seem to be any reason for hoping. This is where the power of the third, of the health message, which is the right hand of the three angels message, comes in. The power to say to you, you can get better. You will get better. Somebody is going to survive. Maybe I won't survive. You know, this world is very strange. Some of us who are listening may not survive this COVID-19, but sadly, many of us will probably survive the COVID-19 but not survive all other things, perhaps because we have not been paying attention to all these other laws that we are talking about. Now, as I'm winding up, I come to the last two, which I am sure you have heard a lot about: nutrition. There are those who believe that the health message is all about food. And I like celebrations, because with celebrations I can talk about all other things and only towards the end talk about food. And hopefully I've held your attention so far. Because when people hear that, oh, in the afternoon we are coming for a health message, oh, they're going to take us, tell us not to eat meat, they're going to tell us what to eat or what not to eat. No. Health message is much, much more than that. Christ is interested in much, much more of you. But of course, the truth of the matter is, food is very, very important. Many of us spend most of our time thinking about food, collecting the food, preparing it, eating it, getting rid of it. Food seems to rotate, our life seems to rotate around food and what makes it. Now, what we want to talk about in the era of the COVID-19 is that nutrition is not food. It is important for you to understand the components of what you are eating. There are foodstuffs that you can eat which can help you survive the COVID-19 because of their nutrients inside. Since we do not have much time for us to go through everything, I would just like to bring to you to say, it is very important for you, as much as possible, to prepare a balanced meal. Young people, avoid eating snacks all the time and not eating a nice warm meal. A simple warm meal of your porridge, saza, chwala, you have that, and you have it with your vegetables, or you have it with your milk, or your sour milk, goes a long way, much, much longer way than a piece of bread and margarine and the like that you'll be taking. So we want to encourage you that, especially in the COVID-19 where your immune system needs to be strong, strive to eat simple, balanced meals, simply prepared. Avoid the frying. Too much fat is not good for you. Avoid too much salt. It pushes up your blood pressure, and your blood pressure, the people with high blood pressure are the ones who also succumb to COVID-19. Avoid the salts. Avoid putting sugar in your food. As I said earlier, sugar does lower your immune system. Avoid all those things. As much as possible, wherever possible, eat fruits, eat vegetables. Eat them as close to natural as possible. In other words, eat your cabbage and your carrots raw. Eat your sweet potatoes raw. Wash them thoroughly. When you don't wash them thoroughly, of course they are going to be bad. I'm not saying that we shouldn't cook food. I'm simply stating that your fruits and your vegetables are in the best state nutritionally when they are not cooked, because cooking tends to destroy nutrients. But there are foodstuffs that are not meant to be eaten raw because you cannot digest them anyway. You do need to cook. Let us get that one clear. The last one that we talk about is S. S stands for social support. I like this verse. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, this is Christ talking. So you too must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. In this COVID-19, I'm talking to you probably in your own home, probably on your cell phone, in your car. You are not at camp meeting, a place where you get together and you warm each other spiritually and physically. It is hard. People are struggling with depression. People are struggling with isolation. This is the time that the Christian love has got to actually be shown. The Christian love is shown in you picking up a phone and calling the other person. You may not have much money. Send a text. Create platforms where you can show other people that you love them. Somebody I know is probably sitting all alone. The children are very far away. The social distancing has meant that they cannot be going to visit. In many countries where we are, there are lockdowns and there are restrictions of movements. Things are really difficult. Let us think about those people whose children may be so far away that there's no food around. Let us come up with plans as churches of finding ways of preparing some food baskets for the needy among us. Many of us can consider ourselves as needy. But did you know that if you've got food in the fridge, if you've got your small little garden, you've got something, you are better than most. There are people who are living on the streets. Those have been hit hardest by this COVID-19. In other countries, they have managed, like South Africa I know of, to put up some homeless shelters. But not everywhere is like that. There in Zimbabwe, I know that in many places in Zimbabwe there are people who are homeless. Let us find somewhere deep inside ourselves that old spirit of Ubuntu. Let's see how we can accommodate each other. Still social distancing, very, very tricky to think about and how we do it. But Christ, in celebrations, is saying to us, let there be social support. Let the warmth of brotherliness be felt, even in these times. He says so, I know, because the spirit of prophecy has documented it. He says it is through the social relations that Christianity comes in contact with the world. Social relations, sanctified by the Spirit of Christ, must be improved in bringing souls to the Savior. That's Ministry of Healing, page 296. Even in times like this, social relations need to be felt. My child may be far away. My mother may be far away. But just next door, there is a mother whose child is also far away. How about our Christianity is felt to warm up our neighbors? You didn't manage to go to the camp where you would have all gone to congregate, but there are neighbors around where you are. Are they attending the camp with you? Share the links. Share what you have. Share a meal. Share a blanket. That is what we talk about when we're talking about celebrations. Very, very practical. James admonishes us, do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. And I want to close by saying to you, health reform, according to the spirit of prophecy, I was shown is a part of the third angel's message, and is just as closely connected with it being the third angel's message, as are the arm and the hand with the body. I saw that we as a people must make an advance move in this great work. Ministers and people must act in concert. Therefore, we are talking in this camp meeting about a Christ-centered culture, our culture. Which culture are we going to be having in the COVID-19? It is possible to practice a Christ-centered culture even in this current health challenges. It is possible to practice it even applying the simple rules that we've always had. Christ, in his plan for the human race, had included all contingencies, as I've just taken you through in the COVID-19. May you stay blessed. Enjoy the camp. Thank you.